Hi listeners, and welcome back to a very special episode of Eerie Enigma Paranormal with Ben. I'm your host Ben, guiding you beyond the veil into the mysterious world of the paranormal. Today listeners, I'm thrilled to bring you an exciting surprise, some extraordinary guests from the paranormal investigation field. During my adventures in the beautiful Hunter Valley last April, I had the pleasure and privilege of meeting the incredible teams from Dark Tours and Next Stop Paranormal. Join me as I sit down with the members of these fascinating teams to get an inside look into the world of paranormal investigation firsthand. In this episode, we'll be chatting about some of their spine-chilling experiences with the paranormal, exploring the haunted sites that they conduct their tours, and sharing stories that'll fascinate and leave you wanting more. Whether you're a seasoned paranormal enthusiast or simply curious about the mysteries of the afterlife, this episode promises to fascinate and leave you wanting more. Don't miss out on this chance to uncover the secrets behind some of the Hunter Valley's most haunted locations with the experts who know them best. First up, I'd like to extend a warm welcome to Christy, Sean, Bella, and Ash from Dark Tours. For those of you who might not be familiar, Dark Tours is based in Newcastle, Australia, and offers some of the most thrilling and spine-tingling experiences you can imagine. I've personally had the pleasure of joining Dark Tours on their Scone, Courthouse and Lockup, and Hinton School of Arts tours, and I can attest to the incredible locations they explore, from the eerie fortifications of Fort Scratchley tunnels to the sombre and haunted cemeteries, historic courthouses and ancient churches. Each tour is a deep dive into the rich and often spooky history of these sites. Dark Tours not only provides a chance to explore these haunted locations steeped in history, but they also delve into the stories and legends that have been passed down and researched. Their expertise and passion for the paranormal make each tour an unforgettable experience. Listeners, we're in for a captivating journey into the unknown, so sit back, relax, and prepare to be enchanted by the fascinating stories and insights into the world of the paranormal. So without further ado, let's dive beyond the veil with Dark Tours and Next Stop Paranormal. Hi everyone, and welcome to the show. It's an absolute pleasure having you here.
Hi, listeners.
Hey!
Hi, Ben. Thank you for having us on your podcast.
Now, let's start with some introduction. Could you all introduce yourselves to our listeners and tell us a little bit about your background? I'd love to hear about what sparked your interest in the paranormal and how you got involved in this intriguing field. I'd also like to know what unique skills do each of you bring to the team, and how do these contribute to your investigations?
Thank you, Ben, for this amazing opportunity to join you on your podcast. We will go ahead and introduce ourselves. My name is Christy, and I have lived in Newcastle my whole life. During the day, I am a digital printer, as I run my own printing business, printing merchandise such as t-shirts for a variety of businesses locally and Australia-wide. As night falls on the weekends, I am the owner and tour guide for Dark Tours, where we run history and ghost tours and paranormal investigations at various historical locations. My paranormal interest started after watching the very first Ghostbusters movie when I was young, and the amazement of objects moving on their own left me with more curiosity than answers. Is this real? Can this actually happen? From here, my interest for the paranormal began, with movies and books, and over the years before all the fancy devices that we have now, I have experienced unexplained things, footsteps, voices, strange noises, and moving into the technology we have available now to use, I have captured numerous unexplainable events, which we are able to now research and document, which has been just incredible. As a tour company owner and tour guide, I have a range of skills from equipment knowledge, equipment setup, tour organisation, and knowledge of local information, and history based on our locations in order to provide a hands-on interactive tour. During investigations, my best skill is communication using the spirit box, where we repeat responses that we hear through scanning static frequencies.
Thank you, Christy. And I love that movie as well. And it's incredible to hear how your curiosity sparked from such an iconic movie and evolved into your passion that then you've turned into your business. I love it.
Thank you, Ben, and hi, listeners. My name's Bella. It's a pleasure to be here and a great honour to have met and done some paranormal investigation with you, Ben, at some of our great sites. The paranormal was something that I've always been interested in since my early teens. I think the thing that really sparked my early interest was actually living in a haunted house. Overnight, I'd always hear the sounds of children running up and down the hallway. I'd get up to check to see if the little ones were awake and out of bed, but no, they were always asleep and tucked up in bed. In the mornings, the kitchen cupboards were always open for no reason. These kind of things always happened. There was a back room in the house that was always cold, winter and summer. Even the family dog wouldn't go into this room. Then one day I came home from shopping. I was walking up to the path to the front door, and this is when I saw a small boy about the age of 6 riding a rocking horse that was sitting in front of a window in the toy room. Knowing nobody was home, I quickly went in to investigate, only to find nobody inside, the rocking horse still rocking, and the room extremely cold. After doing some further investigation, I later found that the house was owned by a family of 4, a mother, father, and 2 children. The back room that was always cold was once a bedroom shared by the 2 brothers. Both brothers contracted influenza and sadly both passed away within weeks of each other. They both passed in this back room. Understandably, the parents were devastated and sold the house. It's believed to be the spirits of the 2 brothers that still haunt this house to this day. This was the first time that I'd ever witnessed a full-body apparition. This experience sparked my interest in the paranormal. I then, unfortunately, after a few years ago, I lost my husband. He was only 54 years old. We'd made promises to send each other signs from the other side. I've always known that death is not the end, and now paranormal investigation has become my life and my passion. I continually look for the answers to these questions that we all ask about life after death. And yes, I get plenty of validation to this question. I'm extremely lucky to be part of a fantastic team called Dark Tours and do paranormal investigating tours every weekend.
Thank you, Bella, for sharing such deeply personal and profound experiences. It's clear that your journey into the paranormal has been deeply influenced by these.
For those of you listening, I'm Ash, and I would also like to say what a privilege it was having the opportunity to have you on tour and to investigate with you, Ben. I grew up around all things paranormal and spiritual. My mum, Bella, never really shied away or hid the paranormal from us, but instead encouraged us to embrace the unknown, and we grew up with the beliefs that there is quite possibly something after death. As for what, I think we're all still searching for it. Which is where my love and passion for all this started. So I've always been open-minded to the paranormal and had a few experiences here and there. But what really threw me headfirst into the deep end of it was the passing of my father. I was probably around 21 at the time, and instantly, from the day he's passed, odd things started to happen. When we said, "We'll see you later," because it's never truly goodbye, we specifically asked him to show us a certain sign if there truly was an afterlife and to let us know he was around. And as soon as we got home from that day, bam, there it was, the sign we had asked for. I was amazed and in awe, and my passion and curiosity for the paranormal
and the unknown was lit on fire again. And ever since that day, I've been investigating full time, and each and every time we get a piece of evidence, it's the most amazing rush of validation.
Thank you, Ash. It's these personal encounters that often deepen our understanding and curiosity about what lies beyond. Christy, can you tell us a bit about how Dark Tours started? What inspired you to delve into the world of paranormal tours?
Dark Tours started in 2022 after my grandmother passed away. My grandmother was well known in the community and often raised money through bake sales for charities and often donated when she could, and that even included giving up her time to help others. I wanted to do something in her honour and also give back to others and share my curiosity for the paranormal. So with my passion for the paranormal and the love of history combined, Dark Tours began. Dark Tours donates 50% of all of our ticket sales directly back to support our historical locations. And in 2022, we were able to donate over $8,000 to Fort Scratchley in just 6 months, with the wonderful, continuous support from our communities. In honour of our donation, Dark Tours was given an invitation to fire the guns at Fort Scratchley on Australia Day in 2023. In just 2 years, Dark Tours has grown from one location to many locations across Newcastle, the Hunter Valley, and Sydney. We have some great locations, such as the Fort Scratchley Tunnels, the Bulladila and Greta Courthouse, the Hinton and Morpeth School of Arts, the Scone Lockup and Old Courthouse Theatre, Marthaville and Lochinvar Homesteads, the Brislington Hospital Museum in Parramatta, and the Old St Luke's Church in Woy Woy. We also hope that in the future we'll have many more locations and to be able to keep our continuous donations coming in to support our societies and their historical locations.
Thank you, Christy, for sharing that heartfelt origin story behind Dark Tours. It's truly inspiring to see how you've turned a personal loss into a meaningful endeavour that honours your grandmother's legacy and supports the community. Combining your passion for the paranormal with a love for history has evidently struck a chord, not just with you, but with many others as well, including myself. The fact that Dark Tours donates 50% of ticket sales to support historical locations is absolutely amazing. Raising over $8,000 for Fort Scratchley in 6 months is a testament to the dedication, enthusiasm you and your team have brought to this project, and a huge thank you from me and congratulations. I'm intrigued to know, how do you select the location for your tours? Is there a specific criteria you look for in a haunted site?
With selecting my locations for tours, my main priority is helping locations that rely on donations to keep their buildings open, such as historical societies and museums.
I absolutely love this approach, and it's so important to keep our history alive.
I also research historical buildings and towns that have many stories left behind from the past. We have discovered that particular buildings don't have to have a haunting story behind it to have ghost activity. It just has to have a history, a past that holds memories lost in time.
I'd love to know, and I'm sure our listeners at home would as well, what are some of the most memorable experiences you've had during your tours?
My most memorable experiences on tour are all the amazing guests we meet and the experiences we get to share with them. And we were extremely fortunate enough to have yourself, Ben, on tour, which was fantastic, and we thank you so much for your support. Every tour and every person is different, and we welcome everybody to come and join us, to have a fun time and experience the paranormal.
Absolutely, and it's all about being open and receptive. I can't wait to return and explore more locations with you all. Bella, we'd love to hear about your experiences.
Gee, some of the most memorable experiences. They happen all the time. But just to recount a few, being touched by spirit, hearing spirit, seeing shadow figures, pictures on the walls moving, electricals playing up, whether that be in the house or the car, our equipment always being drained, but I think the most recent one was the most memorable. I just can't explain it. We do a paranormal investigation at Fort Scratchley. Inside the tunnel, they still have the original recreational and dining area set up, with a few items that belong to some of the men who worked in the tunnels. They have a buy-up book, a letter to a soldier from home, and an original sock with a hole in it that's all set up to be darned. To get to the rest of the tunnels, you have to walk past these tables. They're always set up the same. We've walked past them hundreds of times, and nothing ever changes until the last time. We did one of our usual paranormal experiments, then we took the guests further down into the tunnels to do more investigating. When we entered what they call the ammunition room, there, laying on the floor, was this sock that is originally sitting on the tables at the top of the tunnels. Nobody had been back to the tables, and the dark tour teams were guiding guests down the tunnel, so there's no way that any of us could have brought the sock and put it there in this room. We went back up to check to see if the sock was still sitting on the table. We took the sock with us, but when we got up there, the sock wasn't there. We put the sock back on the table and went back down to the tunnels to continue with the investigation. We have no explanation on how this sock got into the ammunition room. Nobody witnessed the sock moving, and still to this day, maybe probably a month later, the sock has not moved. That certainly made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up, but none of us can explain how that sock ended up where it did. We often talk amongst ourselves about this and how it happened, and we can still get no closer to an answer. Could you imagine seeing the sock just floating in the air, down the stairs and into this room? We do get a lot of other activity at the tunnel, but this was one of the most memorable.
Wow, oh my God, wow. I have no words. Fort Scratchley is absolutely at the top of my list for my next visit with you guys. I can't wait.
We were at Bulladilla Courthouse last night when we were doing an Alone in the Dark challenge. We had infrared cameras set up in different rooms. We had one set up in the courtroom where we could see the doorway that led out to the hallway. There was 4 or 5 of us sitting around watching the infrared cameras, making sure everybody was okay. Every one of us witnessed footsteps walk past the door to the courtroom in the hallway. We could all see the footsteps underneath the door. Christy went out to see if anybody was in the hallway. There was nobody there. This happened on several occasions. Very strange.
Thank you, Bella, for sharing those incredible stories. It sounds like you've had some incredible, unique experiences. And Ash, we'd love to hear about your experiences now.
My most memorable experience would have to have happened at Lochinvar House. It was at an overnight event that Dark Tours run at Lochinvar House one night. It was after most guests had gone to bed, and myself, Christy, Bella, and 2 guests were sitting in the dark in the drawing room with some equipment set up trying to communicate with the spirits of the house. I just had this feeling that something was watching us near the door, so I looked over, and as I've looked over, I've seen 2 little children's legs run past, and before they could reach the other side of the doorframe, they completely disappeared, like it never happened. I know exactly what I had seen. It wasn't full body, just from the knees down. I remember every detail of it, the shoes, the socks, the size of the legs, everything. Unfortunately, I was the only one to have witnessed this, so I'm very grateful that I got to experience this, as it was my first partial apparition that I have seen.
I love this experience. We will talk more about Lochinvar House later in this episode, as Mum and I stayed overnight there. Now, what's the most surprising reaction you've witnessed from a tour participant who started off as a skeptic but ended up becoming a believer by the end of the tour?
The best witness reaction on tour was at our Lochinvar house overnight tour, where a guest joined us for the very first time. Around 10 a.m. in the morning, in the living room, we had a REM pod placed on the fireplace mantelpiece, where we were doing an open spirit box session with no headphones. The resident spirit of the house was interacting with the REM pod during our communication when she told us that she was going to bake bread. At this moment, the REM pod stopped and so did the communication through the spirit box. Everything went completely quiet. The resident spirit often baked bread in the servants' cottage, which is separate from the main house, and so we went over to the cottage and placed the REM pod on top of the baker's stove and started another open spirit box communication session. The first word that came through while we were in the cottage was "hi," followed by the REM pod lighting up. My guest couldn't believe what had just happened, and that we were recently in the main house communicating, and then she went off to bake bread and everything stopped. To then go inside the cottage and to have the communication and devices react again, exactly where she said she would be, baking bread. It was a very unique experience for the both of us.
This is exactly the kind of evidence I love to experience. Lochinvar House holds so many secrets, doesn't it?
The most surprising reaction for me, they're the best, is when I do the table tipping with the guests. I think Ashley feels the same way as well. A lot of people have never even done table tipping or even know what it is. Table tipping was the very first form of spirit communication dating way back to Queen Victoria time. I use table tipping as a fun time for spirit, a time for them to burn off some energy and just to have some fun with us. I'm sure that they get sick of people coming in, asking a lot of questions and then just leaving. So we have a bit of fun with them. I'll get the guests to sit around the table. I'll open the session and I'll invite the spirits of the occasion to come through, and I'll also invite our loved ones to come through as well. I'll wait for the spirit energy to build, and then I'll let the spirits play with the table. I ask them, can they tip the table? Can they slide the table? Can they turn it around in a complete circle? Can they push the table into or in front of a certain guest? Show us how fast you can rock the table. At times the energy can be so strong that they'll tip or slide the table right out of our reach. It can go that fast that we can't keep up with them. The look on the guest's face is priceless. After I've closed the session, many of the guests will come back and pick up the table and have a look. They'll look for magnets or strings or anything like that may have caused the table to move. When they realise that there is nothing there and it's been just pure spirit energy, the look on their face is priceless, and they definitely go away thinking about it. Spirit energy is the greatest.
Thanks, Bella. I've done table tipping about half a dozen times now, and there was one particular session where the energy was so strong that the table was literally being dragged around the room. It was such an intense and surreal experience that I'm still in awe whenever I think about it. The sheer force and presence felt during that session was unforgettable, and it continues to intrigue me to this day. Well, listeners, that was the incredible team from Dark Tours in Newcastle. Their dedication to preserving history and uncovering the paranormal is truly inspiring. Stay tuned, listeners, because after this short break, we'll be joined by the folks from Next Up Paranormal. You won't want to miss it. And don't forget, you can check out Dark Tours on their website, darktours.com.au. Welcome back, listeners. Up next, I'm thrilled to introduce to you all an exciting new group in the paranormal field. Next Stop Paranormal, hailing from Newcastle, is a dynamic duo consisting of two mates, T and Jake. They have shared a passion and a mission to uncover the mysteries of the paranormal. They have quickly made a name for themselves with their enthusiasm and dedication to exploring the unknown. So let's dive right in, listeners. Hey guys, and welcome to the show. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here. Let's start with introductions. Could you both introduce yourself to our listeners and tell us a little bit about your backgrounds?
Thank you so much, Ben. It's T and J. Hey. We'd like to thank you for a start for bringing us on and having a little chat about ourselves, which is very unusual for us. We're not used to it. Basically, I'll start. My name's T. I'm originally a Western Sydney girl who moved to the Hunter. I do have a 9 to 5 boring job. I work for the government. Can't go into too much apart from that, but my hobby and my interests lay solely in the paranormal investigations and the paranormal community and world per se. That's where my love and passion is. A bit of a background, I am from Polish and Slavic and everything else background, really. I do have a lot of Irish, Scottish, so I have a lot of ancestors who were pagans back in the day. Not so much practice in my family anymore, but I do tend to use my background to help me within the paranormal world. So that's a little bit about me.
Hey Ben, Jay here. Thank you so much for the opportunity for us to join you. A little bit about me. I'm also like T, have a 9 to 5 normal job, actually at the same place as T as well. So as you can imagine, it's all S's and giggles. But I come from Canberra, surprisingly, and moved quite a lot around Australia, but now settled down in Newcastle, maybe for the time being. We'll see.
You're not going anywhere.
I could only imagine the banter that happens with you guys while on tour. I'd love to hear about what sparked your interests in the paranormal and how you got involved in this intriguing field. What unique skills do each of you bring to your team, and how do these contribute to your investigations?
What sparked my interest is supposedly my mum tells me from very young when I was a child, I used to sit up in my room and have conversations with things that weren't there. Through my life, I sort of pushed it to the side a bit and just sort of forgot about it or didn't want to know it. As children, we're all innocent. We don't see good, bad, evil, not evil. It's just, it is what it is. You're pure. And as you get older, you sort of push it aside. But I had an encounter with an entity when I was driving when I was actually 21, and it shook me a bit to the core. So I started my journey sort of around 21, thinking, there's more in life, this interest in another world, other dimensions or other beings and entities and spirituality and things sort of come to light. But then I was in a relationship and I pushed that back down because my partner at the time just did not want to hear it. Then when I was 35 of all things, just having a shower and heard a little voice and it sparks my interest again. So not saying that I am psychic or voyant or a medium, but I do get a lot of feelings like empathically. So I can walk into a room and decide I don't want to be there, or I might have feelings that aren't mine. So it has sparked this whole interest in other beings and other life forces and other things in the world that can't be explained, is what I'm trying to say. So that's what led me down this path.
I completely relate to what you've said as well, because I don't like to put a label on my abilities. I just like to say that I'm a sensitive, and that's sort of, open to interpretation. And like I've said before in previous episodes, Like I can tune in and out, and then sometimes I can use my abilities, and sometimes I like to use equipment. And like you, at an early age, I was seeing spirit animals, and that was quite normal.
Well, for me, quite a long time ago, it was when I was actually really young. What I now realize from back then is when I was a lot younger, I used to be by myself a lot from memory. And I used to go, like, when I was playing by myself in the backyard, I'd always have these conversations. And because I didn't really understand what was happening, I used to always run around and always specifically with a green marker, whether it was a whiteboard or permanent, whatever it had to be, it was always green. I used to run around the backyard writing on the fences, on the stairs, in the bricks, like whatever I heard because I didn't understand what was happening. And it wasn't till later on in life when it actually triggered me again. I was like, okay, this could actually be something along these lines of, paranormal activity. And ever since realizing that kind of thing when I was younger, I'm now looking into it a lot more. And it kind of makes a lot more sense now because I used to live across the road from a cemetery, like directly across the road. I could sit on my balcony, look out, and I could see all of the headstones. And that also leads into the next section of back when I used to live next to the cemeteries, also a little while ago. I actually used to see people walking around, but they weren't living. And that was the second trigger that kind of made me want to look into everything a lot more. I just never had anyone to trust and do it with, to feel safe and sound being able to look at something like that. So that was kind of when it was all the beginning. What got me into all of this was I had a bit of an inkling when I was younger that it sparked my interest a little bit, but because it wasn't around as much and there weren't as many people around that had the same thoughts and inklings as me, I kind of shut it out for a little bit. And then it wasn't until I met T at work that brought it on quite a bit. So I was like, okay, this could be interesting. And then we started going on tours together with dark tours, and then we just really started getting on into it.
So I think in regards to our skill set, I feel that I'm an empath. I have a lot of feelings about things, which is really hard because I'm actually autistic. So I don't deal with emotions. I'm not a crier. So I've actually had experiences where we've been out on investigations and I just bawl my eyes out and have realized and come to realize that they are not actually my feelings that I'm feeling. I'm feeling those of whom I might be having around me at the time. I also do a lot of history and research. So I'm big on researching locations wherever we go. Like, I want to know about the location. I want to know if there's been crimes committed there. I want to know backstories of the area and who might have traveled in the areas and if we know any relations to that area as well. So I'm quite big on that research, and also I'm still discovering my empathetic what would you say is empath side of things. But yeah, I can also sort of predict if I want to go into a location, I'll pick up energies. Like I'll feel like if it's somewhere I don't want to walk into, it's almost like hitting a brick wall. Like my body won't let me actually take the steps to go over that boundary. It's not so much a fear, it's a physical reaction. So that's something that I bring. I feel that's unique to our little duo, and have relied on that in many investigations. And Jake's actually really good. He's actually can pick up when I'm having these sort of emotions or feelings and question it and draw it out of me, whereas he doesn't really let me shut that side down. He makes me push through it and explore it. So that's a huge thing for me, and that's what I feel like I bring to our little dynamic duo that we've got going on. So yeah.
I 100% resonate with what you said, and we all possess our own unique intuition. And it's important to recognize that everyone connects with it in their own way. I often say that the first and most essential ability we have is to trust our gut instinct. That inner voice or feeling is a powerful guide, and when we learn to harness it, it becomes a reliable source of insight. Developing a deep understanding of your intuition is key because once you do it, it won't steer you wrong.
I find myself a little bit interesting when it comes to this question because it has been asked before, but I do feel I have some abilities that I'm still working out how to understand and use. So, what T has with her empathic side is I have a visual side. So, I can see a lot more around rather than feel what's actually happening. It's been a couple of instances where T has felt something and not understood it. I could see it plain and clear, not that I really wanted to, which is also another good thing that T is always around with me because it's something that I want to explore more, but struggle to find the power to push myself through it if I feel that something is there, but don't want to confirm it. But your T does help me push through that side and that instance where she said, just look, just the once. That's all you need. I looked, I laid an egg, and I confirmed it. But yeah, sight is one of the things that I do have. And something like, because I try to only focus on one thing at a time so that I can make sure that I'm doing everything that I think is possibly right about it. I do sometimes hear things every now and again, not full on having an ability to do it, but
Oh, the breathing.
yeah, the
Oh.
breathing, the voices still have continued. Yes,
If you're
we
gonna-
are neurospicy, and no, it is not that.
If you're going to breathe in my ear, buy me dinner first.
I agree. They should always buy you dinner first. And I absolutely love this dynamic you both have together. It's just full of support and you're being yourselves. It's truly fascinating how many of us share similar experiences from a young age. These moments of seeing or hearing spirits that leave a lasting impression. Yet, even though these experiences have common threads, each one is deeply unique and personal. I think what draws us together in this field is the desire to connect with others who understand these experiences, who validate our intuition, and who provide a safe space for us to explore these encounters without judgment. It's about finding a community where we can be our authentic selves, where we can delve into the spiritual journeys with mutual respect and understanding. Building these relationships is crucial and essential as they allow us to grow, learn, and support each other in ways that are both profound and meaningful. Now, you're no strangers to Dark Tours and the incredible work that they do. I've noticed you often join their tours, immersing yourself in the fascinating and eerie explorations. Can you share with us which Dark Tours locations have been your favorites so far?
Where do we start with dark tours?
Oh, who knows?
Oh,
There's so many.
dark tours like Sean, Chris, Ash, and Bella. Those guys have literally brought us out of our shells.
They
And
are the quadriceps of a team.
they're actually, I contribute them towards kind of NSP, starting with Chris really powerhousing and telling us to be unique and be ourselves and get out there and explore the world. When we decided to put Next Stop Paranormal together, Chris was just so like forthcoming and so, what would you say, like
Go, go, go.
go, go, go. You know, even Sean was the same. Bella and Ash, like they're just wealths of knowledge and they will always help us understand things. they'll talk to us about things. If we've got things to run past them, they run it past, like we can run it past them. And there's no judgment. And it's so easy being around these people.
Nothing's out of the ordinary.
No, even when we're like, that's a little bit weird.
There's always an explanation, and usually one of the guys in the team, an instant explanation. And if it's not an explanation, it's something that we looked into as a group together.
Yeah, they really took the training wheels off and pushed us down that steep hill into the paranormal gully. So in regards, we do a lot of tours with Dark Tours. We feel so comfortable and so at home with those guys. Like the locations,
We
Oh,
feel safe. And that's
yeah.
the main thing. Like, it could be an absolutely gut-wrenching, spine-tingling location. And then, like, as soon as they show up or they say, let's go, or, they just, even walking around the corner, it's like just seeing that light at the end of the tunnel going, yep, we've got this, we got you.
And they always have your back. Always have your
100%.
back. Doesn't matter what location you're at. There's always that support and always that knowledge that they're going to have your back on any locations. Because some of the locations, like, let's face it, they can be hectic or they.
There's been a few where I've almost run through a brick wall.
I was almost a chicken laying an egg, let me tell you. But I'd say our locations, me and Jake really love the same locations. All locations at Dark Tours we will always go back to, have gone back to. We've got regular spots that we will always be like, yep, we're going. Scone lockup in courthouse. Yeah, that's
another level.
phenomenal. Yeah. Equipment goes off all the time. Like, what do we have out? We had the spirit box, cat balls, tripwire, REM pods.
Quarters.
Everything at the same time would just absolutely go off all at the same time. Even when you ask questions, it's such intelligent responses on the equipment. Like, you're like, is someone there? Can you please make the cat ball light up? Next thing, bang, cat balls lighting up. K2's going wild. So Scone, we will always run to.
Yeah, Scone is a definite. I'd say next on my list is White. A bit of a toss-up. I'm stuck in between two because I feel that there is a lot more to offer at both of these locations, but one of them I'd have to say straight off the bat, and T can talk about Lochinvar, but I will talk about Clontarf Cottage.
Oh, yeah.
So Clontarf Cottage is very interesting, and the reason I say this is because we have had a fair bit of activity around Clontarf. With just the equipment alone, didn't even need us to do anything to initiate it. It was just absolutely...
The dead bell.
The dead bell is just one of the things that absolutely blows my mind there. Watching equipment slide across the floor without even touching it or having to interact was something that just blew my mind. But one of our last trips there, we had 4 cameras going, 2 of them being GoPros and 2 phones. And only one of those devices managed to save any.
Yeah, everything was corrupted. All the files corrupted. Photos deleted.
Yep, phones froze, reset, like you name it, it happened. And only one of them managed to save one particular room, which had just, it's unexplainable.
Yeah, that is a real great banging location.
100%.
Yeah. Lochinvar. Oh,
wow.
Lochinvar we've only gone to once, so we did an overnight tour stay with Dark Tours on their anniversary.
Yes, their
birthday. What can we say about Lochinvar? Oh my goodness me.
Run.
Yeah. I'm not running up too fat. Too fat and too physically. Oh, Lochinvar, man, oh man, what a location. Like, we went in just thinking, oh yeah, it's, an old homestead. Yeah, there might be something. We were not prepared. Like, there were, shadows, equipment, cellars, cat balls, all, like, we've got one of the clearest, remember the clearest EVP from the pool room? And we said, "Are
yeah.
you a man or a woman?" And we clearly heard men.
Yeah, that was the part that tingled my spine. Like, I've had issues with it before, but that just aligned me. I was straight as a bat.
Oh, it was unreal. Like, it did not disappoint whatsoever. Like, if anyone was thinking of doing a Dark Tours event, all of them are amazing. But Lochinvar definitely is something we are looking at going back to. We're trying to organise with Dark Tours to go back in November. It was just so addictive, and
You want more.
yeah.
There is so much more to offer at that place. And, the room that T and I stayed in, like, there was a interesting figure standing in the corner at one point when I walked into the room.
May I just add
No.
that when we walked into this room, Christy was telling us about the room, and Jake put me on the side of the bed where the corner is. Oh, bless your cotton socks.
I have to see it. You don't have to feel it.
So I'd say Lochinvar, Clontarf, and Scone,
Yep.
our top 3 picks for Dark Tours locations, but we would not pass up any of them. We've done all of them, and we're about to do maybe Dark Tours can tell you about that, but they've got a new location on the Central Coast that's going to be released or has been, and we're definitely going to that.
Yeah, just jump on their website to have a look at their locations. And if you're a bit of a history buff, jump on their website and have a look at their Fort Scratchley tunnels. There's quite a bit of history behind that for Australia too.
Yeah, and I know they do on their website as well give you like a briefing of their locations, so you can actually read a bit about those locations before you show up. So yeah, amazing. We'll never stop going to Dark Tours. We'll never stop touring. We even do our own thing. So,
Yep.
we're never going to stop, I might be closer to 40, but in my brain, I'm still 18. I'll say 18. So, yeah, again, Ben, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much.
Respect to everyone out there. And as we say on our NSP TikTok all the time, stay creepy.
Mhm.
Well, listeners, that was the incredible team from Next Stop Paranormal. Next up, I'm going to talk about my experience at Scone Lockup and Courthouse with Dark Tours after this short break, so stay tuned. In the depths of the Hunter Valley lies the town of Scone, a place where history whispers through the winds and secrets lurk in the shadows. With a population of over 5,000 souls, this seemingly tranquil town holds tales of times long past. In 1837, the village was christened Scone, and land sales commenced along the ill-fated Kingdon Street. It was here that the first police lockup was constructed, only to meet a watery demise during the Great Flood of 1857. As the relentless water rose, a desperate constable pushed his only desk into the cell for the condemned prisoner to stand upon, while he rushed to seek permission to release the prisoner or to leave him to drown. Rising from the flood's devastation, a second police lockup was built in 1870, across the corner from the original, a fortress of despair that later transformed into a constable residence in 1930. The 2 new cells, ominously erected in the exercise yard, bore silent witness to the grim histories etched into their walls. Built in the typical colonial Australian style, which embodies the fusion of practicality and modest elegance, reflecting the rugged yet refined spirit of the era, constructed primarily from local source materials, featuring sturdy stone and brick foundations designed to withstand the harsh Australian climate. The facade is characterized by its symmetrical design and a prominent gabled iron roof, a wide front veranda supported by simple yet robust timber posts wrap around the front of the structure, providing shade and a cool respite from the Australian sun. Tall and narrow windows covered in iron bars, the entrance marked by a solid wooden door. The floors are polished hardwood, and the walls are painted in muted white earthy tones, reflecting the natural surroundings. The old police lockup harbours a sinister design. A second ceiling, lying crossways above the first, formed an almost impenetrable barrier. The cells and prisoners' yard, enclosed by towering plastered brick walls crowned with jagged glass, speak of the lengths taken to prevent escape. Within these walls in 1894, reported by the Armidale Express, a terrible tragedy occurred. Constable William Butler, who was quarrelling with his wife, shot himself through the head with a revolver after turning his wife out of the quarters. He was married for 12 years and leaves 5 children. It is said you can still hear the constable walking up and down the corridor, possibly regretting his decision of ending his life. By 1966, the lockup became the Eerie abode of the Museum and Historical Society of Scone, preserving its legacy, full of items of times long gone, from dolls to world wars to the eyes of the portrait staring back at you from the pioneers who died long ago. But the energy of the past is still present within the walls. What was once a bustling hub and the pride of the community now stands as a testament to time's relentless march and Scone's colonial history. Adjacent to this historical site stands the old courthouse as you see it today. In times past, the original courthouse was once there, erected in 1849, convenient to go from the cell straight to the judge. In 1882, a new courthouse arose directly before the old. Rendered and painted brick formal facade, resting on a sandstone base, complete with a gabled roof and veranda. Entry steps to the front portico, flanked by twin shrubs of maybush. A low picket fence runs either side of the building front along the boundary. To either side of the building is a grassed area with scattered tree plantings. Designed by Mortimer Lewis, this foreboding structure was crafted from handmade bricks, its gabled roof and formal facade exuding an aura of authority with elements of Greek revival. Once the gavel fell silent, the building's purpose morphed into a storage for lethal pesticides for the Prickly Pear Authority, before it found new life as the headquarters of the Amateur Dramatic Society. Today, these structures stand as silent sentinels to Scone's historical past, where every brick and beam holds a story and a secret waiting to be revealed. It's hard to say how many souls were confined within these walls, how many stood before the judge and met their fate. The lively voices and bustling activity have long since faded, leaving behind only the haunting echoes of a forgotten era. Growing up in the local area, I have always been captivated by history and the paranormal. The allure of the past combined with the mysteries of the unseen sparked a fascination that never waned. When the opportunity arose to investigate a building steeped in history, one that may have even echoed with the footsteps of my ancestors, I leapt at this chance. This evening I am joined by my dear mum Janet, and this is our experience. We arrived under a pitch-black sky, the streetlights casting long, eerie shadows as the moonlight bathed the entrance to the old police lockup in a ghostly glow. The air was thick with anticipation as we approached. Our footsteps echoing off the cracked pavement, the building loomed before us, a silent sentinel of the past. Inside, the floorboards creaked with each step, whispering secrets of those who have had tread this path before. We were surrounded by artifacts of times long past, remnants of lives once lived, relics from Grandma's kitchen, tools from Grandpa's shed, and macabre items like a jar of preserved piglets. Photographs lined the walls, capturing moments frozen in time, and the buildings that had stood as silent witnesses to history's relentless march. In the main room, where constables once sat at their desks, we began our investigation. We employed call and response techniques and recorded EVPs, hoping to coach the spirits into revealing their names. As our voices echoed in the still air, the atmosphere thickened, charged with a palpable energy. It felt as though we had awakened something, stirring the unseen forces that dwelled within. I was inexplicably drawn to the hallway, where a portrait of Queen Elizabeth hung at the end, flanked by 2 rooms that had once served as the original prison cells. The air here was heavy, with a sense of helplessness and despair. I wondered if this was sensing the lingering presence of Constable William Butler, who had tragically ended his own life within these walls. Our next destination was the kitchen, a space preserved, as if time had stood still. It was a nostalgic scene, evoking memories of our grandmother's kitchen from days gone by. The energy here was different, safe, comforting, with a hint of warmth, as though the spirit of a grandmother was baking something delicious just beyond our sight. As the night wore on, the line between the past and the present blurred, and I felt the weight of history pressing down on me. The spirits of the old police lockup had awakened, and they were eager to share their stories, their sorrows, and their secrets. Next we moved to the old courthouse, now renovated into a theatre. The transformation from a place of judgment to one of performance did little to dispel the lingering echoes of the past. We sat in front of the empty stage, the silence almost tangible, wondering which spirits would make themselves known. Bella and Ash, seasoned investigators with a keen sense for the supernatural, invited us to join them in a spirit board session, more commonly known as a Ouija board. Originating in the late 19th century, it was first marketed as a parlor game, promising a mystical bridge to the unknown. It wasn't long before it became a staple in seances, its planchette moving with uncanny precision across the board, spelling out messages from the other side. Critics called it a mere toy, but believers knew it was a conduit for the supernatural, a means to communicate with those who had passed beyond the veil. We gathered around the spirit board, the atmosphere thick with anticipation. The board itself, adorned with the letters, numbers, and words, yes and no, seemed to hum with a latent energy. As we placed our fingers lightly on the planchette, a collective shiver ran through the group. Bella began the session, her voice steady and calm, as she called out to any spirits that might be present. We began by moving the planchette around in slow, deliberate circles, building up our own energy in line with the board. The room seemed to hold its breath, the air thick with anticipation, as we openly invited the spirits to communicate with us. The K2 meter began to flicker, a telltale sign of a shift in the energy around us. The planchette moved slowly at first. We assured the spirits that we are here with respect and a genuine desire to learn their story. Please use yes and no and spell out your messages to communicate with us, Bella instructed softly. Our first question: are you a male spirit? The planchette glided to yes. What is the initial of your first name? We asked next. The planchette moved to B. Can you show us the first letter of your surname? The planchette circled the board before landing on G. Bella leaned forward, her voice was steady. Are these your initials of your name? The planchette moved to no. The tension in the room grew as Bella continued. How old were you when you died? Mum and I sat in silence as the planchette moved to the numbers 3 and then 7. Were you 37 when you died? Bella asked for confirmation. The planchette stopped moving, hanging in the balance between the living and the dead. Mum broke the silence. Are you a spirit of this building? The planchette moved swiftly to no. Are you a loved one of someone here tonight? Bella asked. Again, the planchette moved to no. A chill ran down my spine as Bella asked, Are you playing a game with us? The planchette, with a sense of urgency, moved to no. Ash interjected, Are you a spirit from the lockup? The answer was the same, a decisive no. Bella's voice trembled slightly. Did you face the judge here in this building? The planchette slid to no once more. Mum then asked, Are you buried on this land? This time the planchette moved quickly to yes. A sense of intrigue washed over us. Do you have a message for anyone at this table? I asked, my heart pounding. The planchette moved to yes. Our curiosity was mounting. Move the planchette in front of the person you want to communicate with, Bella instructed. Slowly, the planchette moved towards Mum. Is this Bill? Mum asked. Thinking of her grandfather from the initial B earlier, the planchette moved to no. We were still in the dark about who was trying to reach us. I mentioned my age, 37. But who were these initials, B.G.? Bella asked. Are you referring to Ben? Are you trying to get his attention? The planchette moved towards goodbye, leaving us more perplexed than ever. We asked the spirits to step back, inviting other spirits to come through. Do we have any other spirits here wishing to communicate tonight? The planchette remained still, yet the air buzzed with a strong energy. Is this a male spirit? Bella asked. The planchette moved to no. Are you a female spirit? The planchette moved to yes. What is the initial of your first name? We asked again. The planchette quickly moved to B again. Show us the first initial of your surname, Bella prompted. The planchette moved to S. Do we still have a female spirit here? Bella asked. The suspense nearly unbearable. The planchette moved to yes. Frustration mixed with intrigue as we decided to end the spirit board session. We thanked the spirits and our angels for protection, moving the planchette to goodbye. The session left us with more questions than answers, an unsettling mystery lingering in the air. We still don't know who was trying to contact us during this session. It left us with more questions than answers. The spirits had spoken, but their cryptic messages only deepened the mystery, leaving us in a shroud of suspense and wonder. Thank you, Bella and Ash, for allowing Mum and I to join you during this Ouija board session. It left us very intrigued. Bella, you're referred to as the Ouija board queen. Can you tell us about your experience with the Ouija board? And have you ever encountered a spirit or energy that made you want to stop a session immediately? If so, how did you handle that?
Thanks, Ben. It was a pleasure to have you and your mum sit in on a Ouija board session with us. I'm really glad that you both enjoyed it and found it intriguing. Working with the Ouija board is definitely a passion of mine, and I've got many boards in my own personal collection. I feel that this is one of the skills that I bring to the Dark Tours team. So, can you communicate with spirit through a Ouija board? 100%, yes, you can. The Ouija board was first patented in 1890 by a man named Elijah Bond. Then in 1891, William Ford bought the rights and marketed and sold it as an innocent parlour game. In 1973, the horror film The Exodus was released. In the movie, the Ouija board makes an appearance, and Reagan, aka Linda Blair, summons and befriends an evil spirit that possesses her. This movie drew in large crowds and was the highest grossing money making movie in 1973. This movie scared a lot of people who went away believing that the Ouija board was evil and was not to be used. This belief is still very current in today's times. I have many years of learning and practicing and experience using the Ouija board, and patience is also a big key. Some spirits need to build their energy up, so I'll give them the permission to use the energy from our devices or myself. When the energy has built enough, we'll start the session. It's best not to bombard the spirits with 1,000 questions all at once, and always give them time to answer. When we did the board together, Ben, we had an unfamiliar spirit at the board. They told us they were not from there, but they were buried on the land. They gave us the initials B and S. I felt like we definitely had a jokester at the board. We were getting no clear answers that night. I asked the spirit to step back from the board and allow another spirit to come forward. No new spirit came forward. I felt it was time to close the session. I thanked the spirits and angels and our loved ones for coming through. We all said goodbye. The planchette moved down to goodbye, and I closed the session by turning the planchette upside down and placing the Holy Bible on top of the board. Spirits can be mischievous and jokesters, and they still have a sense of humour. But if this happens and I don't like the feeling of the energy, I'll always immediately close the board. Ben, can I tell you and your listeners about a Ouija board session we had quite a few months ago? We were at a different location when we did a Ouija board session. The spirit of the lady of the house came through. It was actually her birthday. She was 189 years old. She was really happy that we had thought of her. We brought her a birthday cake, and all of our guests sang her happy birthday, which she loved. She made her presence known all night long. While doing the Ouija board session, Mary, the lady of the house, was coming through on the Ouija board. Her energy was so strong. Mary was making the planchette vibrate so hard that one side of the planchette was actually lifting off the board. You could feel her energy go through you like electricity. One of our guests removed her fingers from the planchette, worried that it was going to fly across the room. The power in Mary's energy is a feeling I'll never forget. It's not very often that you get spirit energy that strong. She's done this on many other occasions, and this seems now to be her new thing with us. I find that if we have closed-minded people or people with negative energy sitting around the board, she won't come through. Every session and location when you do the Ouija board is different. You've got different people, different places, different energy. After doing many Ouija board sessions with us, Christy dubbed me the Ouija board queen, and this is a title that I proudly but humbly accept. I absolutely love working with the Ouija board, and I also love doing table tipping, which can be a lot of fun for us and for spirit. At the end of every investigation, we withdraw all permission from spirit to interact with us or attach themselves to our equipment or us. The table and the Ouija board are cleansed after every session.
Thanks, Bella, for sharing your experiences and knowledge with us. We felt at ease with you right away sitting at the table that night. We also had a brief encounter with the spirit of Mary, which I will talk about shortly, when we stayed at Lochinvar House. What spirits have come through during a session in the old Scone courthouse?
Old Scone Lockup Courthouse and Theatre is such an interesting and spiritually active location. There is heaps of history attached to these buildings. We do many different experiments here and get a lot of responses. One experiment we do here are EVP sessions, meaning electronic voice phenomena, voice recordings. We ask spirit a question, leave time for them to answer, then ask another question, again, leaving time for them to answer. After asking many questions, we listen back to see if we've gotten any responses to our question. You can't always hear everything with just the naked ear. We have and get many responses at Scone, especially in the old kitchen area. Here we have captured many answers to our questions along with tapping, bumps and smells. It's a fun experiment to do in the dark and it's a great location that never disappoints.
Thanks, Bella. I really love EVPs. They're just like a telephone to the other side. Christy, I'd love to hear about your encounters with spirits from Scone.
The spirit that we have discovered that resides at the old Scone courthouse is the spirit of Mortimer Lewis. Mortimer Lewis was the architect of the old Scone courthouse, which was built in 1849. Mortimer Lewis always comes through on our investigations, but we also believe that there is many other spirits that reside there with him, and possibly many more yet to discover. The spirit that we found at the old Scone lockup is that of Constable Butler. The constable had been at the old Scone lockup for over 7 years, zealous in the discharge of his duties and the reputation of being good to his prisoners. He was of quite a tall man, reaching 6 foot tall and scaling in at over 17 stone. In September 1894, Constable took his own life, although it was well known that things did not go smoothly in the home and constantly had arguments with his wife. This apparently had something to do with his untimely death.
Thanks, Christy. Though the situation with Constable Butler is sombre and quite dark, uncovering the records with his description allows us to put a face to the name. This breathes life into both the story and the building, making the past feel tangible. For me, sharing these stories is a way to keep history alive and honour those who lived it. Now let's go back to the evening of the investigation. We then moved to a back room behind the stage, where the air grew heavy and thick with a curious presence. Christy was communicating with the architect of the building, Mortimer Lewis. The spirit balls flickered with an eerie otherworldly glow, confirming his spectral presence among us. I was feeling the weight of unseen eyes upon us, and I decided to delve deeper into the mysteries that the spirit board session had hinted at. I prepared for a spirit box session, a ritual. I knew I could open a portal to the voices of beyond. The spirit box is a device that rapidly scans radio frequencies. It fills the air with white noise and fleeting radio snippets. Paranormal investigators believe that spirits can manipulate the noise, forming words and messages from the void. As the static buzzed, I donned a blindfold and noise-cancelling headphones, isolating myself from the living world to better attune to the whispers of the dead. This method requires an acute sense of focus, tuning out the chaotic noise to catch the fleeting words from the other side. Complete sentences are rare, but fragmented words, woven together, a narrative of the spirit's intent. During the session, my colleagues asked questions I could not hear. Here are the chilling responses I received. Michael, my sister, died when she was 6. In September. They were hurt, sleeping, desperate. I see Jen, which is my mother's nickname. It's over now. You missed it. We were confined. He's here. The atmosphere grew colder with each word. The shadows seemed to pulse with a life of their own. As the session concluded, we pieced together the fragmented story. It appeared we had connected with a spirit named Michael, a young boy of around 12. His sister tragically died at the tender age of 6 in September of that year. Her life snuffed out in her sleep by some mysterious trauma. Both children seemed to suffer greatly, their pain still echoing through the veil. Michael's reference to seeing my mother, Jen, sent a shiver down my spine. The haunting message he's here lingered in the air, a foreboding presence watching us from the darkness. Further research into their tragic story remains elusive, the shadows of the past refusing to fully reveal their secrets. But the chilling encounter left an indelible mark, a reminder that the spirits of the past are never truly at rest. Lochinvar House. What drew me to Lochinvar House? It all began as a personal journey to uncover my roots and discover where I come from. My research into my maternal German ancestry led me to the estate of Coluda, outside Lochinvar, where my family first settled after arriving in the colony of New South Wales in the mid-1850s. My fourth great-grandparents were Christian Counter and Anna Maria Hisnauer, and they embarked on this journey by ship, bringing grapevines from the River Rhine in their suitcases. Mum and I decided to stay at Lochinvar House because this historic building would have been standing during their time, providing us with a tangible connection to our past. It was more than just a place to stay. It was a link to the stories and lives of those who come before us. Set amongst the gently rolling hills of the Hunter Valley, Lochinvar House on the Coluda estate stands as an important historic landmark that invites you to relive the grandeur enjoyed by Australia's colonial gentry. This gracious country estate was originally granted in 1822 to Leslie Dugard, a wealthy young Scottish immigrant and founding director of the Commercial Banking Company of Sydney. He was well connected in Sydney's high society, and his estate reflected his prominent status. The estate, spanning some 2,000 acres, was strategically located near Maitland, with river frontage, a large lagoon, rich soil land, and good hill country. The main road through the valley also traversed the estate, making it an ideal location for commerce and agriculture. The estate's name Lochinvar, along with Lake Katrine, which the house overlooks, was inspired by the stories of Sir Walter Scott, drawing a connection to his Scottish homeland. An overseer by the name of John Burke was appointed, as Dugard preferred to live in Sydney, where he mixed with the social elite. Some of the earliest buildings on the estate were constructed in the early 1820s, with the aid of 20 convicts which were assigned by the colonial government of the time to help with the development of the estate, making it one of the earliest land grants in the Hunter Valley. By February 1829, the estate had become a thriving agriculture hub, with at least 100 horn cattle and 1,400 sheep. A house was built for the overseer, along with a barn, dairy and corn house, and other huts for workers. However, the estate's early years were not without challenges, including incidents with bushrangers in 1835. The following year, the overseer, John Burke, was killed in a fall from his horse, tragically. In early 1840, Dugard had the estate surveyed and subdivided into 70 lots and put them up for sale, intending for part of the subdivision to be created and called the village of Lochinvar to be established at one of the bullock stops on the route from Maitland heading north. The well-established house and associated structures, including a store, cellar, dairy, granary, stables, and even a blacksmith shop, were purchased by the Scottish Australian Investment Company, also known as the Aberdeen Company. They installed Mr. John Garland as the manager, who needed to expand the house to accommodate his 11 children. using bricks made on site and those that bore the impression of the company's initials. Commercial wine growing commenced on the property in the 1840s under the Kaluda label, establishing Lochinvar as a renowned vineyard. The estate produced considerable quantities of wine, and the ruins of the old cellar, complete with convict carved sandstone and kilned bricks, still lie beside the main house, offering a glimpse into the estate's rich colonial past. By 1858, the Aberdeen Company decided to put the estate, comprising now of 526 acres, on the market. By July 1859, the sale to John Frederick Doyle was completed and his family moved in. The quality of Kaluda wines was confirmed when word was received in 1874 that one of them had won a medal in the London International Exhibition of 1873. Now, by April 1882, after 22 years, John Frederick Doyle passed away, leaving the estate to his son, James Doyle. This meant that James was now able to both sell a small allotment and commission a major reconstruction of the main house. James seems to have been living until then in one of the smaller 2-brick cottages, which Mum and I stayed in for the evening. By August 1882, the original 3-room house, which overlooked Loch Katrine, built around 1840, was now being expanded by architect J. W. Pender, the most prominent local architect of the time, doubling its size. By 1883, the house as you see it today was now completed by builder Benjamin Hodgson. Production of the Kaluda wine had ceased production also by the late 1890s. In October 1904, James sadly passed away. As a single man and never married, he shared the house with his unmarried sister Louisa, leaving her a life interest in the estate. After living on the estate for 73 years, Louisa later died in August of 1932, leaving the estate to her cousin Harold Doyle. The estate was worth $1.2 million in today's currency. In October of 1933, Kaluda was sold out of the family and became a dairy farm. The house has withstood floods, fires, willies, and earthquakes, enduring as a testament to its robust construction and historical significance of colonial Australia. Lochinvar House embodies all the grandeur expected of a distinguished country estate from its era, with its 15-foot ornate plaster ceilings, grand entrance hall, and an opulent dining room that once hosted the elite of colonial Victorian society. The sitting rooms are adorned with period furnishings, and the spacious, luxuriously appointed bedrooms reflect the comfort and elegance that mark the lifestyle of the Australian gentry. The elaborate marble bathroom, featuring what is likely the largest bath you've ever seen, further accentuates the house's commitment to indulgence and style. The architecture of Lochinvar House is a striking testament to the Victorian colonial style, crafted with locally sourced materials and the skilled hands of convict labour. The wide hallways, lofty ceilings, and generously proportioned rooms are furnished with antiques, each piece contributing to the estate's unique colonial character. The house is not just a residence, but a curated experience of historical opulence, blending traditional Australian and Oriental art as a homage to the original owner's refined taste. In the sitting room, a space filled with antiques, Oriental flourishes, and plush floral furniture, a significant painting from 1840 hangs on the wall. This artwork offers a glimpse into the past, depicting Lochinvar House with a spear wielding Aboriginal in the foreground and swans gliding gracefully on the lake at the front of the estate. The painting serves as a historical guide, revealing the landscape and interactions of the time. The hallway of Lochinvar House, stretching endlessly, is itself an immersive gallery experience. It is adorned with an eclectic collection of pictures, each one adding to the narrative of the estate's storied past. Making a walk through the house a journey through history, art, and architecture. But beneath the grandeur of Lochinvar House lies an expansive cellar, nearly as long as the house itself. Originally designed to store food and keep goods dry and cool, this subterranean space served as a dual purpose in the early days of the estate. In addition to its practical uses, the cellar was also a place of confinement, where assigned convicts were kept under lock and key. This hidden, shadowed area beneath the house provides a stark contrast to the elegance above, offering a glimpse into the more harsh and controlled aspects of life on the colonial estate. Lochinvar House, an estate steeped in time, harbours secrets that whisper through its very walls. Those who tread its creaking floors often speak of an unsettling presence, a lingering sense that they are not alone. The estate, once the proud home of the Garland family in the 1800s, holds tales of life and death within its shadowed corridors. The Garlands had 13 children, but fate was not kind to them all. One child, a young soul, departed from this world under the guise of natural causes in the 1860s, yet his presence has not entirely faded. At the far end of the house lies the reading room, a space where the past seems to hover just out of reach. In the corner, an out-of-tune pianola sits in silence, its keys untouched, as if waiting for ghostly fingers to bring it back to life. Beyond this room is one where the little boy drew his final breath. A former caretaker of Lochinvar swears it is the very child who plays tricks on the living. How else could the guest soap carefully placed on the towels at the foot of the bed mysteriously appear on the pillows instead? The same caretaker would sometimes leave an old children's book open, only to return and find several pages turned, as if someone or something had been reading. And then there is Mary, the ever-watchful spirit who lingers still. Dark tours with their tools and talents have made contact with Mary on more than one occasion. Mary, the wife of John Garland, who was born January the 20th, 1835, in Aberdeenshire, Scotland. She married John in London in 1852, and together they raised a large family, though only 11 of their 13 children survived the perils of time. Their names, Mariana, Emma, Catherine, John, Thomas, James, George, Edward, Isabella, Robert, and Lachlan, are etched into the history of Lochinvar. But it's Mary's spirit that remains the most palpable. On the evening of Mary Garland's 189th birthday, the atmosphere at Lochinvar House was electric with a sense of anticipation. Dark tours, ever in the search of supernatural, found themselves at the heart of an experience that would leave them questioning the very fabric of reality. While enjoying a casual game of pool in the billiard room, one of the guests felt an eerie sensation, only to glance towards the doorway and see the unmistakable figure of a small boy, his head peeking around the corner, watching them with curious eyes. This spectral child seemed almost playful, yet his presence was a chilling reminder of the house's haunted past. The night only grew more unsettling as the guests retired to their room. They noticed the curtains moving with a life of their own, billowing as if caught in an invisible breeze. Moments later, the window, which had been secured closed, creaked open on its own. The house, it seemed, was alive with energy,
of its long-departed residents. But the true terror came as they walked past the dining room. There in the dim light they saw her, Mary Garland, in full apparition form, gliding silently through the room in a white nightgown, her ethereal figure almost glowing in the darkness. The strangeness continued into the next morning. Before bed, one guest had left a pair of sunglasses on the fireplace mantel, yet when dawn broke, the sunglasses were nowhere to be found. A thorough search of the house yielded nothing. It was as if the item had vanished into thin air, spirited away by unseen hands. Mary, it seemed, had truly made her presence known in celebration of her birthday. The house was alive with activity. Devices flickered and responded to unseen forces. Footsteps echoed in empty hallways, and the very air felt charged with the supernatural. Some say it is she who still watches over the house, her spirit intertwined with the old walls, felt in the cool draughts that slip through the corridors, the sudden sensation of being watched, and the soft, ominous creak of floorboards in the dead of the night. The veil between the past and present is thin at Lochinvar House, where the spirits of the Garland family remain, forever bound to the place they once called home. Mum and I found ourselves staying in the 2-bedroom cottage at Lochinvar House, connected to the main house by a covered walkway. Adjacent to the cottage stood the remains of a convict-built cellar, a haunting relic of the past with its original bricks and sandstone, now eroded and lost to time. The very air around it seemed to hum with forgotten stories and unseen presences. I chose to stay in the first room, which boasted a beautiful open Victorian fireplace, with walls of exposed red brick that told tales of countless lives that had passed through this place. When I first entered, the room felt cozy and bathed in the golden light of the setting sun, its warmth spilling over the valley. But as night fell, the atmosphere shifted. A subtle yet undeniable presence began to fill the room, most distinctly on the right-hand side of the bed, as though someone, or something, was quietly watching. I placed Mabel, my 1920s doll known for attracting spirits from this period, on the mantel of the fireplace, arranging spirit bowls beside her in the hope of drawing out any lingering energies. As I unpacked for the evening, I spoke to the house, as is my custom, thanking it for allowing us to stay and inviting any spirits to interact with Mabel or the balls. I demonstrated how the balls worked and then left to have dinner with Mum, a sense of anticipation hanging in the air. After dinner, I began setting up in the kitchen to perform a tea leaf reading for Mum. As I prepared, I thought I caught a flicker of movement out of the corner of my eye, something shifting in my bedroom. At the same moment, my gaze was drawn to a small statue on the shelf near the old iron cooking stove. It was a tiny deer, made in Japan in the 1950s, identical to the one my great-grandmother had left me, my mother's grandmother. Seeing it there in this strange and ancient place felt like a message from the other side, a beautiful sign that our ancestors were near. Mum settled in to sip her tea, quietly asking the universe for answers to her questions. Tea leaf reading is deeply personal and interpretive ritual, each pattern and shape in the cup a potential glimpse into the unseen. As we discussed the images forming in her cup, one stood out. A side profile of a lady, with her hair pulled up tightly into a bun. We didn't think much of it at the time, but it lingered in our minds, a subtle echo of something yet to come. Later, as we prepared for bed, I returned to my room and began to settle in for the night. No sooner had I begun to relax, and the spirit balls on the mantel beside Mabel began to flash, casting eerie, dancing lights across the room. My heart raced with both fear and excitement as I quickly turned on my recorder and began to ask questions into the darkness. If there are any spirits here, could you please tell me your name? I paused, the silence around me heavy with anticipation. Is Mary here? We've heard a lot about you, Mary. Though my equipment captured no clear EVPs, the feeling of being watched, of someone sharing the room with me, was unmistakable. The energy was palpable, even if the voices remained hidden. Meanwhile, Mum found herself drawn outside, her thoughts fixated on the cellar. What secrets did it hold? Buried beneath the earth, waiting to be uncovered. Welcome back, listeners. I have another very special guest on this episode. Welcome to the show, Mum. It's always a pleasure to have you on.
Hi to all your listeners, Ben, and thank you for having me back on your show.
Now, Mum, how did you feel when we first entered the cottage? Did anything stand out to you about the atmosphere?
Well, walking through the door, it felt like a happy place, full of laughter and storytelling, where family and friends gathered around the open fire after a long, tiring day. The atmosphere of the cottage was quite light and calm. On the other hand, the cellar was not. When we both went off to bed, I felt quite uneasy and not wanting to turn my light off. I suppose I was scared of the dark. I've never been frightened of the dark, so I wasn't sure why until the next day when I was drawn to the cellar.
When you felt drawn to the cellar, what emotions or thoughts were going through you? Did it feel like someone or something was guiding you?
The cellar was a horrible place. Yes, something did stand out to me looking down that cellar instantly. I felt darkness. This is why I felt I didn't want to turn my light off the night before. So much sadness. And yes, in the cottage, I felt a man's presence. I have come to the conclusion that this is why I was frightened to turn off my light. The spirit was trying to tell me the darkness which they had endured and being locked up with little food and water. Such a very sad place to look at.
Thank you for sharing your insights, Mum. I completely understand why the cellar left such a strong impression on you. The darkness you felt, both physically and emotionally, is a testament to the sadness and suffering that space must have witnessed. It's as if the walls themselves hold the memories of those who endured such hardship, and that lingering presence made it impossible to ignore. As for the cottage, the man's presence you felt there makes so much sense in light of your experience with the cellar. It's heartbreaking to think that his or her spirit might still be tied to the trauma they faced. The fear you felt in turning off the light wasn't just a reaction to the physical darkness, but to the emotional weight that surrounded you. That place carries so much history, and it's clear that the spirits there are trying to share their stories. Even if it's through the subtle feelings that they impart on those who visit, it must have been incredibly unsettling. But it's also a reminder of why we explore these places, to give a voice to those who can no longer speak for themselves.
The night at Lochinvar House seemed reluctant to unveil its secrets, as if the spirits were content to watch us in silence rather than reveal themselves fully. After a long evening of anticipation and unexplained occurrences, we decided to call it a night and retreated to our beds. I only woke once, aroused by the unmistakable sensation of someone standing at the foot of my bed, silently observing me. Though unnerving, I calmly asked them to leave, and the room fell back into its heavy silence. The next morning before we departed, Mum and I took one last walk through the main house. We were alone in the vast, echoing corridors. As we wandered, we admired the intricate architecture and the old faded portraits that adorned the walls, each one a silent witness to the house's long history. It was in the grand entranceway that something caught my eye. A photograph, black and white, depicting two women, one seated in a horse-drawn buggy in front of the very brick cottage where we had stayed the night. This woman wore white with a large hat perched delicately on her head, with her hair pulled back tightly into a bun. There was something eerily familiar about her. Mum, standing beside me, suddenly pointed to the woman in the buggy. "That's the woman from my tea leaf reading," she said, her voice tinged with awe. The resemblance was uncanny. The same delicate features, the same intense gaze. It was as if the image from the teacup had come to life before us. Intrigued, we later delved into the history of Lochinvar House and Kaluda Estate via the National Archives of Trove, and found the exact same image, and discovered that this woman could very well have been Miss Louisa Doyle, from the citation notes, the last of the Doyle descendants to reside at the estate. The connection was undeniable, as if Louisa herself had reached out across time, leaving her mark on our experience in the house. The spirits of Lochinvar had kept their secrets well hidden throughout the night, but in the light of day they had offered us a glimpse into the past, revealing a thread that linked us directly to those who had once walked the same halls.
Thank you for joining me on this latest episode, and until next time. This has been an Eerie Enigma Paranormal with Ben production. Share your captivating paranormal tales with me to feature on upcoming episodes. Connect with me on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, or Spotify. Eerie Enigma Paranormal with Ben. Your stories are waiting to be told.